I sat across from them in that stale little conference room, pretending like I didn't already know something bad was coming. You could smell it, that weird corporate air, too much carpet cleaner and fear. The lights hummed. One dying ficus leaned in the corner like it wanted to quit too. Diane Foster from HR sat with her thick glasses and a file folder like she was about to tell me I'd won a damn cruise. "Dale," she said, way too soft. "We've completed the compensation realignment review." I knew that phrase. I'd seen it float through the company channels like a ghost for weeks. But I didn't expect what came next. "Your new compensation package will be $73,000 annually." I stared at her, then at Preston Voss, my new division head from Vantage Holdings, who couldn't tell a server rack from a coffee mug. He didn't even look up, just scribbled in a notebook like this was routine. I did the math in my head. From 174,000 down to 73, that's a 58% pay cut and not a single damn explanation. I could feel heat rising in my neck, but I didn't give them the satisfaction. I just nodded once and said I'd think it over. Like they were offering me ham or turkey, not cutting the floor out from under my life. Diane smiled like I had just agreed to cake. She slid the folder across the table. "It's effective immediately. Effective immediately. Same hours, same responsibilities, same deadlines, less than half the money." Didn't cuss. Didn't throw a chair like I wanted. Not that day. Just stood, grabbed the folder and walked out of that room like I wasn't mentally spiraling. The second those glass doors shut behind me, my hands started shaking. I walked to my truck on autopilot, climbed in, and just sat there. No music, no calls, nothing. The steering wheel felt like ice. My mouth was dry as sandpaper. I kept thinking, mortgage, groceries, child support, baseball cleats, field trip forms, Christmas. What the hell do I tell my kids? I sat there for damn near an hour, trying to breathe, staring at my own dashboard like it might show me a path forward. Then I started the engine. I drove straight home and parked in the driveway without getting out. Just sat there, engine off, watching the porch light flicker like it might give out too. That job was supposed to be the one thing I could count on. I joined Bridgewater Systems back in 2013. We were 12 people jammed into a shared office space over in Spokane Valley. Crappy carpet, bad coffee, no air conditioning half the year, but we were tight, hungry. Everyone pulled weight. Didn't matter your title. Hell, we didn't even use titles, just results. You either got it done or you didn't. I thrived in that. First year I worked every damn holiday. Slept under my desk during a 3-day server crash. Missed my youngest first school play because the deployment window shifted at the last minute. Told myself it was temporary. Told my wife the same. It wasn't. By 2018, I was managing 9 major enterprise clients. Over 65% of our service revenue came through my pipeline. I was the guy they called when the client was pissed, when a server fried, when a scope ballooned overnight. I made things work. Always did. Then the divorce hit. She left me for some guy named Bryce who taught Pilates and posted shirtless selfies from Baja. She moved to San Diego and said she needed to breathe. Left me with the house, the boys, the bills, and no idea how I was supposed to juggle it all. My job became the anchor, the only thing that made me feel like I wasn't falling apart. In 2020, when Vantage Holdings bought us out, they hosted a big all-hands video call. "This is about scale and opportunity," their CEO said, grinning like he had just cured cancer. What he didn't mention was that he'd walk away 7 months later with $5.1 million in a consulting gig in Switzerland. We got a new logo. Then came the management bloat. More meetings, more red tape. They made us build weekly slide decks instead of fixing real problems. The layoffs started slow. Admins first, then ops, then middle managers. No explanations, just calendar invites labeled status update. My team dropped from 7 to 3. The work didn't drop at all. I was fielding calls at 10 at night, apologizing to clients for bugs I hadn't even been briefed on. I started doing back-end fixes myself, half asleep at 2 in the morning, because we didn't have enough dev support. The stress wasn't just bad. It was full-blown overload. I was snapping at my kids for leaving cereal boxes open, falling asleep at red lights. My hands would randomly shake when I typed. But the thing is, loyalty is only useful to the people cashing in on it. When the cuts came, they didn't come for Preston or his little circle of yes-men from Vantage. They came for the ones who had been grinding, The ones who built the company before it was even worth buying. And I still didn't see it coming. Not until Diane slid that joke of an offer across the table, and I realized they were done pretending I mattered. So I got out of the truck, walked inside, and poured myself a drink. I didn't even finish it. Just stood there at the sink staring at my reflection in the microwave door, trying to swallow the panic. Then my phone buzzed. Wade Sorensen. Hadn't heard from him since he bailed on Bridgewater 6 months back. Smart guy. Got out early. I picked up. Wade. He didn't waste time. Dale, you checked your LinkedIn lately? I laughed. Man, I've been too busy keeping my head above water. Well, you should. I'm with Ironclad Solutions now. That caught my attention. Ironclad was the only real threat to Vantage in our market. Bigger budget, smarter leadership, less corporate fluff, more execution. Our execs keep asking about you, Wade said. They know what you've built. Want to talk? I didn't answer right away. My heart was already pounding, but my voice stayed steady. They know I'm still at Bridgewater. They know you're the reason Bridgewater hasn't bled clients since the acquisition. He wasn't blowing smoke, and we both knew it. I'll call you back, I said, and hung up. I walked into my office, shut the door, and pulled out my original Bridgewater contract from the desk drawer. I read every damn line twice. No non-compete. No confidentiality language that covered future employment. We never had to sign one. Bridgewater used to be about trust. That was their mistake. I opened my laptop, not to download anything. I didn't need that satisfaction. Not anymore. The information was already in my head. Years of notes, relationship quirks, contract patterns, client frustrations no spreadsheet could ever show. I knew when the chief information officer at Apex Networks had his kid's surgery scheduled. I knew Pinnacle Data was about to renew, but was pissed about billing. I knew the back-channel politics at Callaway Group like I had written them myself. That wasn't stolen data. That was earned trust. Nobody could take it out of my head, and nobody owned it but me. I called Wade back. Set the meeting, I said. First thing tomorrow. He didn't even try to hide the smile in his voice. You got it. 8 in the morning, the diner on 5th Street. Not some slick boardroom, a diner. That's how you know it's serious. After the call, I sat there in the dark for a while, fingers laced behind my head, heart pounding like a jackhammer. They thought they could gut me, and I'd just take it, nod politely and fade into the background while they built their offshore transition. They forgot who answered the phone at midnight when no one else would. They forgot what I had already survived. I closed the laptop, walked down the hall, and peeked into the boys' room. Both were asleep. Cody half off the bed, Wyatt wrapped up in his blanket like a burrito. I stood there a second, letting it sink in. This wasn't about ego. This was about them. I had 2 choices. Keep getting kicked in the teeth, or remind them who the hell I was. I turned out the light, walked back to my office, and packed a folder with everything I needed to walk into that diner swinging. The next morning, I pulled into the diner parking lot 10 minutes early. Didn't even bother dressing up. Jeans, boots, black polo. If this was a real conversation, I wasn't showing up like I had something to prove. Elliot Crane was already inside, booth by the window. No suit, just rolled sleeves and a black watch that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. He looked up, nodded once, and slid a coffee across the table before I even sat down. You drink it black, right? Yeah, I said. Thanks. No small talk. No fake smiles. Just 2 men staring across laminate with too much history behind their eyes. I got right to it. Vantage bought us, gutted the company, slapped 2 more layers of bloat on top and called it progress. I took the hits, cleaned up their messes, kept our biggest clients happy. He didn't flinch, just nodded once like he had heard worse. Probably had. They called it a realignment, I added. But what it really was a message. And what message was that? He asked. That I'm disposable, that they think I'll take scraps because I've got mouths to feed. Elliot leaned back, arms folded. We've tried to hire you twice before. You said no both times. I was loyal. Yeah, he said, eyes sharp. And where did that get you? I didn't answer. He reached into his bag and pulled out a folder, slid it across the table without a word. I opened it. 215,000 base, bonus structure, full health coverage, dental, vision, stock options, real money, real future, immediate start. I kept my hands on the folder but didn't close it. Why so much? I asked. He leaned in, voice lower now. Because you've retained 96% of your client book over 6 years. That doesn't happen, not in this industry. Not with what you've been given. I stayed quiet. Let that land, he continued. You're the only reason we haven't flipped 5 of Bridgewater's biggest accounts. Every time we push, they tell us the same thing. We trust Dale. Then he hit me with it. Word is Vantage is moving your whole department offshore within the year. They're forcing attrition so they don't have to pay severance. That salary cut of yours? Step 1. I stared at him, throat dry. That confirmed, I asked. 2 separate sources. We've seen the vendor bids floating around already. That explained everything. I closed the folder but kept my hand on it. I'll give you my answer by 3 this afternoon. Elliot nodded, didn't press. Just sipped his coffee, like we were talking about baseball, but I already knew that wasn't just a job offer. That was a rope thrown into floodwater. I finished my coffee, slid out of the booth, and walked back to my truck. Sat there a minute with the folder on the passenger's seat. Then I called Wade. Tell Elliot I'm in, but I'm doing this my way. He went quiet for a second, then said, wouldn't expect anything else. At exactly noon, I walked back through the front doors of Bridgewater like I owned the place. Badge still worked. Guess no one had flagged me yet. The receptionist gave me a tight smile. Probably already heard something. I didn't stop to chat. Took the elevator to the 4th floor, marched down the hallway, and stepped into conference room B, like I wasn't about to blow it all up. Preston Voss sat at the head of the table, hair perfect, watch gleaming, like he had somewhere better to be. He looked up from his tablet with that smug little nod like we were old golf buddies. Diane Foster sat beside him, folder in her lap, eyes locked on the floor. Dale, Preston said, setting the tablet down. We need your answer. I pulled out a chair and sat across from them, calm, controlled. Got a couple questions first. Preston leaned back, annoyed already. This isn't a negotiation. Wasn't planning on one, I said. Who's taking point on the Callaway rollout next month? He blinked. That's not your concern anymore. It is. Those clients were told I'd manage it personally. They'll adapt. I smiled. Are you outsourcing this division in 8 months? Diane shifted in her seat. Preston didn't answer, so I asked again. You're moving my department overseas, right? Still nothing. Then finally, I don't know what you think you know, Dale. It doesn't matter. I stood slow and steady, folder still in hand. I'm not accepting the pay cut. I'm resigning, effective immediately. Preston laughed, short and sharp. You can't just walk out. Sure I can. Section 7B of the original contract. No notice required if there's a major compensation change. Like, say, a 58% cut handed to me in a windowless room with a weak cup of coffee. Diane's head shot down to her papers, flipping fast. Her hand was shaking. Preston's jaw tightened. You'll be hearing from our lawyers. For what? Breathing too confidently. I leaned forward, met his eyes. I haven't taken anything that isn't mine. I didn't copy a file, didn't forward a single document. All I'm walking out with is my reputation, the trust I built with those clients. That's mine, and I'm taking it with me. He tried to speak, but I was already done listening. I turned to Diane. You got a resignation form in that folder? She nodded, barely, slid it over. She did. I signed it, stood up, buttoned my jacket. Preston muttered. You think this is some kind of power move? No, I said, walking to the door. That comes next. And I walked out. Didn't look back. The hallway felt longer than I remembered. My shoes clicked against the tile. Nobody stopped me. Nobody said a word. I passed the open office where my team used to sit. 3 empty desks, 2 remaining people staring at their monitors like they hadn't heard. Maybe they had. Maybe they were waiting for me to say something. I didn't. I took the stairs down instead of the elevator. Needed to feel my legs moving, needed to feel real. Every step down was a year peeling off. All the holidays I'd missed, all the weekends I'd given away, all the times I'd told myself it was temporary, that the sacrifice would pay off. Out in the parking lot, the sun was straight overhead. I stood there, squinting, breathing, folder under my arm. 11 years, folded up into one signature, and the scary part was how light I felt. Like I'd been carrying a concrete block and just set it down. I got in the truck, tossed the folder on the passenger seat, and pulled out of that lot without checking the mirrors. I didn't need that satisfaction. Not anymore. There was nothing behind me worth chasing anymore. I drove straight to Ironclad. Elliot was expecting me. He met me in the lobby himself, shook my hand, and handed me a key card before I'd even signed the offer letter. Welcome aboard, he said. We start Monday. I nodded. Then he handed me something else. A printout of the team roster. 21 names, including mine. People I'd be leading. I scanned it quick, recognized 2 or 3. People who knew the business, who had their own reasons for leaving the corporate churn. It was real. This was actually happening. I drove home that evening with the windows down for the first time in months. The air hit different when you weren't dreading what came next. When I walked in, Cody and Wyatt were at the kitchen table with homework. I told them Dad got a new job. Wyatt looked up and asked if it paid enough for the good pizza. I said it did. Cody, the quiet one, just watched me for a second, then went back to his math. But he was smiling. For the first time in a long time, I actually believed the ground under my feet. I didn't even make it to lunch the next day before the voicemail started piling up. 13 missed calls. All Bridgewater, all pissed. First was one of the regional vice presidents wanting to clarify the nature of my departure. Second was someone from the legal department. Third, Preston himself. He didn't leave a message, just hung up after 2 rings. Coward. By mid-afternoon, my personal cell started lighting up with names I knew like family. Callaway Group, Pinnacle Data, Apex Networks. All of them confused, all of them annoyed. Dale, we were told you'd still be leading the transition. What happened? Why did we hear this from a junior rep and not you? I let them talk, I let them vent, then I told them the truth. Short, clean, professional. Bridgewater made decisions I couldn't stand behind. I left. That's all I can say for now. They got it. You could hear it in their voices, that pause where anger turns into understanding. Then the texts started coming in from what was left of my old team. Screenshots, Preston flailing, assigning accounts to staff who barely knew what the software did, telling clients someone would circle back by the end of the week when they needed solutions yesterday. Travis Nolan texted me. He tried to put Paige on the Apex Networks account. She thought it was a hardware vendor. I replied, check your inbox in an hour. Ironclad had already lined it up. Offers went out that afternoon to Travis and another top guy, Owen Pell. Both had kids. Both had bills. Both had been hanging on by a thread just like I had. They accepted before sunset. That night I got an email from Diane. Subject line, professional courtesy violation. Real bold, considering she wouldn't even look me in the eye the day before. She wrote, "It has come to our attention that your exit may not have followed best practice professional norms. We expect better from someone in your former position." I didn't even flinch, just hit reply. Attached a screenshot of Section 7B from my contract. No notice required in the event of a major compensation reduction. Copied it to Bridgewater's legal team. Sent. Done. Crickets ever since. They wanted me to leave quiet. They expected me to bow out, head down, grateful for whatever scraps they tossed my way. Instead, I walked out and lit a match. And now they were watching the whole thing burn. Day 3 at Ironclad. I was finally starting to breathe normal again. Got my key card, laptop, real setup. Not some folding chair and printer corner like I'd had my last 6 months at Bridgewater. A real desk. A window. My name on a little plaque by the door. Small thing, but it meant something. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost let it go, but something told me to answer. Dale Hutchins? Yeah, this is Roland Kessler. Just like that. No assistant, no buffer. The CEO of Vantage Holdings calling me direct. A guy I'd only ever seen in investor videos and photo ops with mayors. Funny thing was, he probably hadn't heard the full story. Guys like him never did until the fallout hit their inbox. He didn't waste time. I've been made aware of the client movement following your departure. There's concern around fallout and rumors of active poaching. I kept my voice calm. I told them I was leaving. They followed. That's not illegal. That's loyalty. He paused. Preston says, "Let me stop you there," I said. Preston offered me a 58% pay cut in a windowless room. No severance, no warning. And he conveniently forgot to mention the layoffs planned after the second quarter. You think that is leadership? Silence. Then, what would it take to bring you back? I laughed, couldn't help it. You think this is about money? Everything is about money, Dale. Not for me, it is not. This is about respect. Something I gave for 11 years and never got back. He didn't argue, just shifted gears. We would be willing to match Ironclad's offer. No, we could beat it. Still no. Then what do you want? I leaned back in my chair, feet up on the corner of my new desk, staring out at a skyline that was not mine yet but would be. Here is what I want. Stop treating the people still there like crap. Fire Preston. And stop threatening to sue the guy who just walked away quietly. You are not walking away quietly. No, I said, keeping my tone flat. You made sure of that. There was another pause, longer this time. Then he said, this call did not happen, fine by me. He hung up. I set my phone down, cracked my knuckles, and opened my inbox. Time to get back to work. Some people stay in bad situations because they are afraid of the unknown. I get it. Change is terrifying. But staying somewhere that slowly drains you is not safety. It is slow-motion surrender. The night before I left Bridgewater, I sat in my driveway for an hour, engine off, just staring at the porch light. That was the last night I let fear make my decisions for me. The next morning I walked in and chose myself for the first time in 11 years, 6 months later. I had a corner office, a real title, Director of Client Integration at Ironclad, and 21 people reporting to me. I still showed up early, still stayed late when it mattered, but now the grind paid off. My boys, they were sleeping easier, so was I. In the first 4 months alone, 6 of my old clients left Bridgewater. I didn't pitch them, didn't send one sales email. They reached out to me. Dale, are you still managing accounts? We're not getting answers over there. Can we move everything to your team? Bridgewater scrambled. Slashed rates, offered stupid deals to keep clients from walking. Didn't matter. Turns out relationships beat discounts every time. Diane, the HR rep who played blind in that conference room, got moved to another division. Something generic like internal development. Nobody congratulated her on the move. The whole department knew what she had allowed to happen, and nobody let her forget it quietly. Preston resigned, which probably meant he was pushed out after screwing up 3 client handoffs and trying to bluff his way through a software demo he did not understand. Last I heard, he was doing consulting work out of a WeWork in Seattle. The irony of that still makes me smile. As for Vantage Holdings, they shelved the outsourcing plan quietly. No announcement. But I heard from 2 different managers that the contracts with the offshore vendors just stopped. The people still there started breathing again. Travis sent me a photo of the old floor one Friday afternoon. Somebody had taped a printout of Section 7B to the wall by the coffee machine. Like a flag. I laughed so hard Owen came running. The inside joke caught on. Pretty soon other people were printing it out too. Turned into a quiet rebellion that management could not stop because technically the contract was real. It was binding, and they had broken it. Nobody got fired for passing it around. Nobody wanted that story in the press. I even ran into Harold Finch, my first boss at Bridgewater, at a trade show in Portland. He spotted me from across the room, cut through the crowd, and pulled me into a hug like we were family. They did you dirty, Dale, he said. Glad you landed on your feet, smiled. I did not land, I jumped. We talked for an hour about the old days, about how companies used to treat people like humans instead of line items. He told me he was retired now, consulting on his own terms, picking only the clients he actually liked. Sounded like a good life. That conversation hit different. Here was a guy who had spent 30 years in the trenches, who had seen every corporate trick in the book, telling me that walking away was the bravest thing he had ever seen a mid-level manager do. He shook my hand before we parted and said, "Give you your worth, Dale. Do not let anyone appraise you at a discount." I carried those words home on the flight like they were made of glass. Real talk. The money is great, so is the freedom. I work remote 3 days a week, pick my own clients, skip the useless meetings. I don't miss the grind. Just the part of me that used to think grinding was the only way to be seen. But the real win was saying no. No to being devalued. No to eating crap with a smile. No to giving another year to people who thought I would never walk. Now I make it to soccer games, help with homework. Eat dinner with my kids at an actual table, not the driver's seat of my truck. I sleep more than 5 hours a night. I still work hard. That will never change. But now I do it for people who know what I bring to the table, people who respect it. Last month, Cody's teacher asked the class what their parents do. He told her his dad fixes companies. She probably thought he meant plumbing. He was not wrong. The week before that, I got a handwritten note from a former colleague still at Bridgewater. No signature. Just a line that said, "You opened the door." Some of us are walking through it. I pinned it to my corkboard next to the boys' school photos. Every morning I see it when I sit down. Every morning it reminds me why I walked out, and every morning I am glad I did. Some people stay in bad situations because they are afraid of the unknown. I get it. Change is terrifying. But staying somewhere that slowly drains you is not safety. It is slow motion surrender. I used to think loyalty was everything. Turns out self-respect matters more. And if you are sitting there right now in a job that is slowly gutting you, thinking you have no options, hear this. You do. And sometimes all it takes is one phone call to burn the whole damn cage down.